Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to the Breslov weekly Parshas Shia. The Shabbos Chanukah. It's Parshas Mikeitz. Mikeitz is also a power-packed parsha. Tells the story that Yosef was called to interpret Paro's dream. Paro dreamt that he saw 7 fat cows, and the lean cows swallowed up the fat cows, and they didn't look any fatter. They didn't put on any weight. There were 7 very productive, very full corn stalks, not corn stalks, wheat probably. And then there were 7 lean stalks that they swallowed up. The fat stalk, nothing changed. They remained lean as before. Yosef was called to interpret the dream, which he did, and he told Egypt will have 7 fat years, 7 very productive years, and then it'll have 7 very lean years, and so on. And there was a famine in the entire area, so that not only the Egyptians, but even the nations around them all came to Egypt to buy food. Yosef had Paro's store a lot of wheat for the future, so the storehouses were full, the silos were full, and Yosef was able to feed all the people from the surrounding area. And then we have the fact that his brothers came down to buy food, and they were looking for Yosef, and how he met the brothers. And what happened at the end, Yosef took his goblet and he hid it among Binyamin's pack, and he took them all back. He says, "You all deserve to be slaves to me, but I'll send you all back, just the thief who was Binyamin, who really wasn't a thief," and so on. That's the parsha in short. Let's go back to Paro's dream. Paro was a wicked person. All the Paros were. They ruled over people. They didn't care what happened to the people. The Egyptian dynasties were very, very rough, very, very oppressive to their people. You can look it up in history. And Paro had this dream. He had the fat cows, which represented the bounty that will come, and he had the lean cows, which represented the famine. Rav Nosson tells us in the Kuta Halachos that this is Paro's dream. Yeah, Paro's dream is to take the fat cows, the good people, the Jewish people, and to enslave them so that there will be no remembrance of the good, right? The lean will swallow up the fat, and there will be nothing to remember the Jewish nation by. That's Paro's dream. It turned into his nightmare because Yosef was the one who saved him, and he was forced to recognize Yosef as his viceroy. And so it is throughout history, where the nations try to swallow up the Jews. If you look at Jewish history, you'll see that wherever they went, first France, England, Germany, how they were welcomed because they brought trade and understanding of how to run businesses and whatnot, and they built up the countries, Italy and whatnot, the Austro-Hungary Empire, and so on. And after a certain amount of centuries, they were kicked out. Why? Because they wanted the lean years. The lean people, who didn't have all this business acumen, they got tired of the Jews, so they kicked them out. They went to Poland, Eastern Europe, Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Poland, and so on. And they were welcomed with open arms. And they brought trade and business, and they built up until they were kicked out again by the Russians and so on. And this is Paro's dream. To him, it's a dream to get rid of the Jews. And we, in our situation today, have to look to America, North America, and even South America, where there are many Jews who are very prosperous. And they've done great. America, USA, Canada, right, even in Mexico. So the Jews were doing very well. But as after several centuries, several hundreds of years, the other people get very jealous. The Jews run the media, the Jews run the business, the Jews run this, the Jews... No big deal. They've always built it up. This is Paro's dream, to destroy the Jews. And every couple of centuries, it happens. So, the first lesson of this week's Parsha is to recognize that we had some very many good years in North America. We had. But it's catching up with us. And if anyone has any intellect at all, you would pack up and move to Israel. You would pack up and get out before it's too late, right? It may not seem bad, may not, but the 7 lean years are coming. And we have to be careful. We have to watch our brethren. We have to watch and save whatever we can. So think about it. Think what Paro's dream is, and think of what a nightmare it turned into be. Look at New York City. The Jews were there in the late 1600s, right? New Amsterdam. They weren't allowed to trade. They weren't allowed businesses. They weren't allowed even shuls and whatnot. Eventually it changed. New York became a haven. Look where it is today. You have such a person elected as the mayor of New York. How could that ever happen? It's a warning sign. So may Hashem help us that we do the right thing and we all end up coming back to Eretz Yisrael. And with that, Be'ezah Hashem, we will see much success, more success. Okay. Then we have Yosef feeding all the nations around so that all the money in the neighborhood came to Egypt. Egypt became extremely wealthy. Why? Because of the Jew, right? Everyone had what to sell. Yosef made them wealthy, and they kicked him out. Not really. They didn't really kick him out, but they despised him. And in Parshas Shmos, we see that Paro turned against him and so on. Okay. But then we have the other part of the story. Yosef's brothers came down to Egypt, and they came down to look for him. They came down to buy food, but they came down to look for Yosef. And they spread out. And Yosef noticed that his brothers came in, visas or whatever you want to call it. He saw everyone, he saw every name. And he called them all together. And he spoke to them. But he did not speak maliciously to them. They sold him as a slave. He spent 12 years in prison, 1 year in Potiphar's house until Potiphar's wife attacked him. Right? But there was no malice. because Yosef knew that Hashem is the one who runs the world. As we will see in next week's Parsha Vayigash, that Yosef says Hashem thought it to be best. He went into exile to prepare the exile for the Jewish people, and that's what he did. So there are things that we do not understand that take place in the world. Yosef met his brothers. He antagonized them, yes, but there was a purpose. He wanted to see how much they regret their past deeds. And that's also something that we have to learn. We have to regret what we did wrong. Not everything we did was wrong. A lot of things we did was good. But we have to examine and look at places, look at the things we've done, look at the things we've said, and we have to learn to find the good in it. And that's what you have also with the story of Paro's dream. Nosson says, Paro's dream is where there ever is a good point, fat cows or whatever, the lean cows swallow it up. In other words, he says, wherever there's something good, we forget it. And we're involved with the evil. We're involved with the bad things. We're involved with the things that make us depressed. No, that's not the way to live, Reb Nosson says. Right? Paro's dream is to swallow up all the good. Yosef's advice is find the good points, stack away some for the future, because when you're going to be depressed, you're going to be able to find good things that you did and bring yourself back in tshuva, bring yourself back to joy and happiness and to rebuild your life. So these are some of the ideas of this week's Parsha. May Hashem help that we learn to integrate it into our lives and do the right thing. And with that, we will see the redemption and the return of the exiles to Israel. Amen. Amen. We want to thank you all for watching these videos. We hope it's helped you, the ideas of Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Nosson, and it will enhance your Shabbos. You'll have something extra to talk about. We hope you'll be able to share these ideas with other people too. And with that, we're going to see wonders upon wonders, how people's lives improve, and we have real reason to live, go forward with life, and to succeed in having a wonderful life. Amen.